How to build a Blackgates Sweet Pea 5-inch gauge locomotive. Part 37. After machining the top and side faces of the reverser stand, I marked the position for the bolt holes to fit the casting to the chassis. I made a spin-off episode called How to Clean Up and Machine Gunmetal Castings, and this is what I ended up with, a cleaned up and machined gunmetal casting. And here is an excerpt from part of that special episode. The first thing to do is to clean out the hole in the casting. I'm cleaning up the hole in the casting at this point using a hole cutter in my electric drill, and I must say that I don't recommend doing it this way because if the drill bit grabs in the hole it will throw the part about. But gunmetal's a very soft metal, so it's not doing that. And besides, I'm being very gentle with it. Both the bolting face to the frames and the larger part that supports the reversing lever need to be at 90 degrees to each other, not 87 degrees and not 94 degrees, a perfect 90 degrees. This is not difficult though. I set it in the machine vise by eye and took a cut across the top. And this is okay, but it's not good practice, definitely not good engineering practice. My calibrated eye works quite well after so many years. And as you can see, I'm removing sufficient metal to get through all the rough stuff and leave a completely flat surface on the top. Once I'd done that, I lowered the milling cutter and took a cut all the way around. This eventually gave me very clean edges. I don't need to bother too much about the corners, they will be rounded. Now I turn the part around in the machine vise with the larger flat surface uppermost. This needs to be exactly at 90 degrees to the part that I've just machined, and I checked that using a set square down onto the milling table, and once I was happy that it was at 90 degrees I could continue the cutting process. I'm going around the edges first. The part isn't particularly flat, but the underside in this area is really unimportant. What is very important is that the top face needs to be at 90 degrees to the part that you've just seen me machine. This brings us to the opening sequence of this particular episode, and the clip shows the reverser stand casting as well as the motion bracket castings. At this stage I'd better show you what the plan is. This casting bolts to the chassis, obviously the other way up, and between the top of the reverser casting and the reverser itself is a flat metal plate. Now it's machined, and even though I do say so myself to a good standard, I need to mount this casting to the chassis. I'm using some marking out blue which is going everywhere. I really hate this paintbrush. I think I'll make another one that fits into the cap. I wiped off most of the surplus with a cloth, and here is a gratuitous shot of the marking out blue drying. I tried to screw the cap onto my water bottle, I just wasn't thinking, and it turned the water blue, so I really can't drink this anymore. The good news though is I take the last of the hormone therapy tablets on Monday, and then I will get my testosterone back. And I'm really hoping that my strength and short-term memory returns to normal when I stop taking these tablets, which are part of my prostate cancer treatment, and have been for the last 6 months. I had an idea which actually wasn't successful, but it's a good idea. I thought I will thread the gunmetal bracket. Then I can bolt it to the chassis just using bolts from the inside of the chassis. To thread the holes I'm using a 4BA tap. And the threading went off without event, and the holes look to be in quite a good position. Well, most of them do, apart from the last one on the right hand side at the bottom. This was definitely inboard, and I don't know why, because I did mark it from the holes that had been drilled in one side of the chassis, but then after closer inspection I did notice that they weren't exactly in the same place, relative to each other. I should have noticed this when I scribed the lines between the marked out centres. After threading all of the holes, I fitted some quite long 4BA hexagon bolts, first of all with a nut spinner and then pulled them through from the other side, and they fitted perfectly, apart from the last one. How come the last sequence in a sequence of events is generally the one that always goes wrong? This is called Sod's Law or Murphy's Law, or possibly it's just part of the chaos theory. One problem is the casting itself. If you look at the bottom part of the casting, there is a ridge running full length. There was a similar ridge on the smaller mounting flange, and even though I filed this off to try and get the bolt closer to the middle, it still didn't work. The hole, unfortunately, is not in the correct place. Here's a flashback to an earlier episode showing the reverser, which by the way appears to be in the wrong position, and it's sat on a fabricated steel bracket. There are two problems here. The first one was obvious. Not only is this steel bracket just wrong, when I removed it, it fell apart into two pieces. The solder that you can see looks alright, but that's the only bit that is holding it, so that went in the scrap bin. Time for a rethink. In this close-up of the chassis, you can see that the hole at the bottom right is bigger than the other ones. Any holes that are drilled through both parts of the chassis when the chassis plates were held together are fine, but any holes drilled in just one side are not bound to be in the right place. The answer is to drill out the holes, well, all of them apart from the bottom right. Once I'd done that, I tried the bracket in position, and it's still not good. I think I was just trying to be a bit too clever by threading the bracket. There's some movement going on here. When parts of steam locomotives get hot, they randomly move around as the metal expands and contracts. So a bit of clearance in certain areas is a good thing. I was also a little bit concerned that four 4BA hexagon bolts wouldn't be strong enough, because this is a highly stressed component, which has to hold the valve gear way shaft in whichever position you want it between forward and reverse. I drilled out all of the holes, both in the bracket and in the chassis, M4.4. And although I generally don't use Allen cap head bolts, on this locomotive there are one or two areas where they're going to be very useful, and this is one of them. All four of the bolts are a perfect fit. I just need to fit some nuts on the other side now. And that's it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.